Hello there and welcome to Motorcast. Today it's time for a MotoGP podcast today on the channel. And today me, Benny and Matt are going to be reviewing the first two tests before the 2017 MotoGP season. The first one at Sepang and the second one at Phillip Island. There's also a third test in Qatar in the middle of March. And after that test we'll also be doing a review of that test and then a season review. And actually the first race at Qatar straight after that. So my guests today, as I said, were Benny and Matt, the analysts on today's show. And I think we're going to get straight into it. You guys know who Benny and Matty are. So Benny, let's go with Honda first. How do you think Honda get on at these two tests?
Well, I think that Honda do look quite strong this season. Unlike last season, especially at the start of the season, they really had quite a lot of problems with the bike, with Marquez being the only one who could have ridden it properly. But this season, him and also Pedrosa and Crutchlow all look quite competitive from the start. In all the testings, they have shown quite good pace so for now, but yeah, it looks like they've got one of the best bikes this season and that they'll be competing for the title this year.
Yeah, actually Vinales has beat Rossi on 5 out of the 6 days out of the both tests, I think that's correct, with Rossi only beating Vinales on the first day at Phillip Island. Matty, would you definitely say that Rossi's not comfortable because Vinales has been beating him?
We've seen, there's been a few little video clips of Rossi, losing control of the bike slightly, and I feel like, you know what Rossi is like. He will get used to the bike eventually. Maybe it's just a few little niggles. It'll be best to get it out the way in the pre-season tests, and hopefully he should be comfortable by the time they come to the first race. But what it does show is that Vinales is a quick rider to adapt to a new bike, and I'm really kind of impressed. It means that, to me at least, maybe we should keep an eye out for him, and maybe he isn't going to be the pushover that perhaps some people are expecting him to be.
Yeah, definitely. I watched MotoGP last year. I was really impressed with him. I think it was in Spain. It was a really good race that Vinales was in. So, Benny, do you think that Vinales is a good enough replacement for Lorenzo at Yamaha?
Yeah, I definitely think that he is. I think he is one of those very special riders that have got a lot of talent. That he is quite close to Marquez, and with a bit of luck, and if it is. Well, if a bit of luck, he could challenge for the title already this year. But I think that in the first few races, he's still gonna have a few tiny little problems, just not knowing the bike as good as Rossi or Lorenzo, or how good Lorenzo knew it. But I think that he's got a good shot this year, and that Rossi is gonna have quite a few problems with him.
Very interesting. So let's next go on to Honda. We're just going to talk about the Repsol Honda team, the original manufacturer from Japan first off. Matty, we've got obviously the Pedrosa and Marquez staying there again. Do you think Marquez can go for the title once again?
I think Marquez is absolute favourite for the title. Yes, the times were not... he wasn't top in the times in really any of the test sessions, but Marquez is kind of the king of sandbagging, I feel. There's no need for him to really go all out in these test sessions, whereas for Vinales, he's got something to prove. So I feel Marquez has probably got another half a second to find, maybe even another second. So he's definitely going to be right up at the top by the time they come to the first qualifying session, first race. In terms of Pedrosa, I don't know. Over the last few seasons, he hasn't really done too well, and he's had a few problems with injuries as well. I think it was 2016 he had an injury. He got injured halfway through, or was it 2015? One of the two. Got injured halfway through the season. Missed a considerable amount of races. I don't think Pedrosa is going to be there for the title, which is, Pedrosa's been around for a while now, and you feel that he kind of deserves a title after all the time he's put into the sport. But I just don't see it from him.
Yeah, definitely. Marquez actually topped one of the timesheets at the first day in Phillip Island. That's what I've got down. But then again, Casey Stoner did top the timesheets on the first day.
Casey Stoner, who should still be in MotoGP.
Yeah, very good point for the Ducati team and Dovizioso. So actually did the same amount of laps and was just a 10th off on that day. So Benny, would you go along with that? Would you say that Marquez is the favourite for the title?
Well, as it looks right now, I think that he is, because in the previous few seasons, before last season, I think that I wouldn't have said that so much because he was basically all or nothing. He crashed or won, but last season he showed quite a lot of maturity, and he really deserved last season's title. And this season, I think if he continues like in the way that he did last season, I think that basically nobody can take the title away from him, except maybe Vinales if he gets a really good season, but it's going to be a tough job.
Okay, let's move on to Ducati next. And Lorenzo's obviously gone to Ducati after a long time at Yamaha with Valentino Rossi. He joins Dovizioso, and Ian One is left to go to Suzuki this year. Now, Matty, it was moving to... We can't really analyse this just yet, but early signs of a lack of pace from Lorenzo. So, the early signs, is Ducati the right decision?
Well, I guess we can only look to the past to see if moving to Ducati has been a good idea. Obviously, it worked for Casey Stoner. He would... How many... Did he win 1 or 2 titles with Ducati?
1.
He won a title with Ducati. Thank you very much, Penny. So that obviously worked out for him. But then you look to more recently, and the likes of Crutchlow and Rossi. It hasn't really worked out. And over the last few seasons, there's been glimpses that the Ducati's got some pace, but it just hasn't been consistent. And I think, Ian One's probably gotten closest to finding the true potential out of that bike. Dovi's also gotten pretty close. I mean, you are going to see the absolute full potential of that bike under Lorenzo, but I just don't feel it's going to be a championship winning bike this season. Maybe next season, maybe he's looking a little bit long term, but I mean, I can't see the reasoning really behind wanting to leave Yamaha at this point in time.
Well, apart from Lorenzo making the headlines, do you think that Dovizioso, Benny, could make the headlines after his teammate Ian One caused quite a few crashes last year and was definitely in the limelight? Do you think Dovizioso can be more in the limelight for good reasons this year?
Well, he's always been quite a consistent racer, and he got quite a lot out of the bike, but I don't think that he is the type of racer to win titles and to be just like the fastest guy around without having necessarily the fastest bike. I think that Iannone was quite a bit a better rider. He did make quite a few mistakes, taking himself and Dovizioso and other riders out of the race as well, but I agree with Matty. He did show quite a lot more pace than Dovizioso, but we'll see. Dovizioso won Malaysia last year, which was quite an interesting race, and I think that he can win a race this season, but not challenge for the title. Lorenzo maybe, Dovizioso not really.
Yeah, very interesting there. So moving on to Suzuki, the team that Ian One, who we were just discussing, has actually gone to. We've actually got a rookie in there this season as well, Alex Rins, the Spaniard. Ian One, well, as I said earlier, very interested in the Ducati last year, causing quite a few crashes, but hopefully he can settle down a little bit at the Japanese Suzuki team. Benny, again, how do you think Alex Rins can get on at Suzuki this year in his debut season in MotoGP?
Well, he is obviously quite a talented rider, as he has shown in the past few lower Moto seasons, but especially at the end of last season after he got injured, he just wasn't the same. So maybe that the last injury halted his progress a bit, but this season, considering all the testing and everything, he does show that he's got quite a lot of promise and that he does have talent, but he looks like isn't the type of rider to just go on the bike and extract everything from it like Marquez and Vinales are. But I do think that in the future seasons we could see him in the top. But this season I think it's gonna be a learning season for him, so not expecting much from him. And Iannone, I think that he's gonna challenge for wins, and maybe if he's gonna calm down a bit, he won't crash everybody out.
Very interesting. So at these two tests, Matty, Alex Rins has been fairly competitive with his teammate. His teammate's beaten him a few times, but he's also beaten his teammate a few times, particularly at the last day of Phillip Island. Rins actually got a 6th place and Iannone was down in 12th. Do you think that Rins can challenge Iannone, or do you think it will just be a learning season for him this time?
I think it will be a learning season, but I can't see why not. Why he can't challenge Iannone. Rins, of course, finished 3rd in the championship last year in Moto 2, so definitely a special rider. He's probably got a really good teammate in terms of Iannone. You know, he can learn quite a bit from him, but he can also beat him, because Iannone, despite the fact that he was probably Ducati's best rider last season, he's still probably not the best rider on the grid. So I feel like it's good. It's going to be a nice close competition between them two, and hopefully be quite competitive. So I'd say it's pretty 50-50 to who will end up out on top between those two.
Yeah, it'll be a very good talking point throughout the season to see if Rins can keep up with his teammate who's got a lot more experience in MotoGP. So moving on to Aprilia now, one of the other factory teams in MotoGP. Sam Lowes makes his debut this year on that Aprilia RSGP bike, and he partners Alicia Spargaro in that team, the Spanish rider, and we've got 4 British riders on the grid this year. Benny, how do you think that Aprilia will get on this year? I mean, I know they've made a bit of progress, but maybe a little bit slow still.
Well, at the moment it doesn't look like they've got the pace to challenge the top 3 teams, with being Yamaha, Ducati and Honda. And I think that they also aren't up to the level of Suzuki, who have shown quite a lot of promise, but we'll talk about that later. Oh, we already did. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. They've shown quite a lot of promise, but I think that Aprilia still, unless they do something drastic to the bike, I think that this season they'll still be fighting for points, but they aren't gonna exactly be high up the grid. I think that the top 10 and maybe a podium if they're lucky is the most that they can achieve.
Very interesting. So Sam Lowes makes his debut, another British rider. Good to see another British rider on the grid, wouldn't you agree, Matty?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the last few seasons it's just been a bit Spartan from British representation. So it's good to see him on the grid. Had a pretty strong end to last season as well, Moto2. I mean, personally, he wouldn't have been the choice that I would have put in Aprilia, but the decision's been made, and we've got now 3 Brits on the grid, which is definitely a good thing. For him, I think he'll be looking for a nice, quiet season. Just looking to get used to. I think it's going to be a massive learning curve for the whole team. So, fortunately, he's got a good rider to learn off with Alicia Spargaro. So, I feel I think I can only really echo the words of Benny here, and that they'll, in terms of the results they'll be hoping for. But it'll be next season which we should really keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, definitely a learning curve for Rins and Lowes, the 2 guys in the factory teams as rookies this season. So on to the last factory team, the last manufacturer, KTM. It's their first season as a factory-supported team. How do you think they'll get on this year, Matty?
Kind of the same thing as Aprilia. They have obviously had bikes in the lower categories before, so they're no strangers to MotoGP. Is perhaps what Aprilia have done super bikes, and I think they've done Moto2. Don't hold me to that. But it's a brand new outfit for MotoGP's KTM, with Red Bull sponsorship all over the bike there, and a couple of good riders there, in Bradley Smith and Pol Espargaro. Espargaro obviously Mr. Consistent when it comes to the last few seasons, and Bradley Smith maybe a bit of a wild card. Obviously showed a lot of promise in the last couple of seasons. Maybe finally living up to the name that he set himself down in the lower categories. When it comes to this season, though, I think they'll probably start off quite slow. I mean, the testing, they were a little bit off the pace, even off Aprilia. Although you could put that down to perhaps them having a little bit of a poor day, but they were still down near the bottom end of the sessions. So kind of echoing the words of Aprilia and just going for a nice, quiet season to try and develop the bike.
Yeah, definitely. KTM have actually got a new team in Moto2 for this season, and I believe I'm right in saying that the first manufacturer to have a presence in all three classes. So in terms of continuity, it's really good, isn't it, Benny, that they've got somebody in all three classes, and definitely a lot of talent coming through for the future.
Yeah, it is, and something interesting that not everybody knows is that Johan Zarco, who is a rookie this year and will be racing for Yamaha, his manager is also the main manager of the KTM squad for racing. So I think that the Slovenian commentators speculated about this, that first they put Zarco on a Yamaha, a good bike, so that he'll have a few good seasons to learn, and then when the KTM bike is gonna get competitive, that they are gonna put him on the bike and hopefully he'll win them championships and or at least win races for them.
Yeah, it's really good that, like you say, very interesting fact actually there. But KTM in terms of continuity, really good with that Moto2, Moto3 and MotoGP factory supported team for this season. So now on to the other teams. We're going to start with, like Benny said, Johan Zarco and Jonas Folger. I believe that's how you pronounce them, the German and the Frenchman. And they're driving for the Tech 3 team from Yamaha this season. The same bike, the YZR-M1. Two rookies, our last two rookies in this season. Matty, how do you think they'll get on?
I'm expecting big things from Johan Zarco, considering he won the Moto2 championship last season.
And the season before.
And the season before. Perhaps a little bit late coming to MotoGP, but he's got here eventually. He's come into a really solid team with Tech 3. Obviously, they've challenged for wins before. They've challenged, they've always been considered the second team to Yamaha, and I think they are. I'm just double checking here. Yeah, they're using exactly the same bikes as the Yamaha factory team, so there's absolutely no disadvantage there. Well, maybe apart from setup or something like that. There's always little things between factory and privateer teams, but this, I think Folger could easily go up. Zarco could easily go for a win or a podium. Perhaps trying to get something like top 7, top 8 in the championship. I think that would be a successful season for him. But for Folger, I feel like Tech 3 decided, yes, we've got our star man. This is the guy we've wanted. All right, who are we going to fill up with the next space? Oh, let's just go with Folger. It seems like a bit of a lazy appointment, or maybe they just ran out of funding after trying to get Zarco.
Actually, I think that Folger got his contract before Zarco. Folger got it quite early in the last season.
Oh well, there you go. Don't listen to me at all. Benny's the man with the facts here. I still kind of stand by my point, though. It's a bit... I think they could have done better with getting a rider in. And they perhaps could have gotten a more experienced rider in as well to help Zarco out. Someone like Crutchlow. I feel he would have been perfect for that position.
Okay, so any more fascinating facts to give us, Benny, about the Yamaha Tech 3 team?
Well, Crutchlow actually raced there a few seasons ago before moving to the factory Ducati team, where he didn't exactly have a good time, and then he came to the team that he's at now, LCR Honda. But looking at both the rookies, I agree Zarco he's got a lot of potential, and the way he dominated Moto2 in the last 2 seasons has just been something expected of really big riders, and I think that he's got, if he gets the setup right, I think he's got the chance of winning a race maybe, or at least finishing on the podium. But he's quite consistent, and I think he might finish top 8 in the championship. As for Folger, I have no idea why he got the contract, because in Moto2 he didn't really show quite a lot of promise. He did have a good race or two, but he wasn't exactly consistent.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. There's definitely a lot to watch out for this season with the 4 rookies, and we've got obviously a lot of drivers moving teams, and it'll be a definitely interesting season in 2017. So on to the next team, we've got the LCR Honda team as well as the Mark VDS team, who are with the Honda constructor, and they've actually got the same motorcycle, the same as the Tech 3 team, the RC213V. So we'll start first off with the one rider team, LCR Honda, with Cal Crutchlow driving there this season. Benny, how do you think Crutchlow will get on this season?
Well, to put it simply, I think he's gonna show similar performances than he did towards the end of last season. Last season he won twice in Brno and in Phillip Island, where the second test was, and towards the end of the season he really did show quite a lot of pace that he did miss in a few of the seasons after he left Tech 3. And I think that he's got quite a good chance of getting another win or two and to finish on the podium on several occasions. And he's going to be one of the top guys this season.
Yeah, definitely. As I said earlier, we've got the same motorcycle. Crutchlow's been in this for a long time now. Well, not necessarily a long time, but quite a while. Do you think, Matt, you can get anywhere near Pedrosa and Marquez this year?
Not Marquez. Marquez is just on a different planet when it comes to riding motorbikes. But I reckon he can get close-ish to Pedrosa. I mean, obviously, Cal Crutchlow, that bike is, the LCR Honda is pretty much a factory Honda. You know, it's pretty much their third, bike. So he will have a lot of the same tools available to him as the 2 factory Honda riders do. And last season I think it was a big season for Crutchlow, because despite being at Tech 3 and having such a good run there.
No, last season he was an LCR Honda.
I know, but I'm talking about earlier in his MotoGP career. He did. You know, you could say that was his most successful time in MotoGP. You know, it was before last season, it was the closest he ever got to a win. He was scoring podiums regularly. And into, you know, last season he did come in perhaps a little bit down on his luck, because he just hadn't really been performing ever since he moved to Ducati. So I feel like he's going to be coming into this season with a newfound confidence, considering he's finally got the win that he really kind of deserved over the last, in his, this is now his 7th year in MotoGP?
Yeah, he's been in it a long while.
Yeah, he's been...
Yeah. So I feel like, no, he's not going to match Marquez, but he has a chance of matching Pedrosa.
Well, looking particularly at the Phillip Island test, he actually got a 5th, 3rd and the 5th, which is pretty good going. As Matty said, the bikes are pretty similar, maybe a few setup issues with the LCR. But Benny, do you think that Crutchlow could get close-ish, as the word Matty used to Pedrosa this season?
Definitely, especially if Pedrosa has health issues, which I hope that he doesn't have. Pedrosa's really been quite an unlucky rider all throughout his career, and I'd hope that doesn't continue. But I do think that Pedrosa has slowly been getting a bit slower, maybe, in the past few years, especially when the bike hasn't been the best. And I think that Crutchlow, especially as he did show quite good rides towards the end of the season, has got a shot at finishing quite high, maybe even ahead of Pedrosa.
So now onto the Mark VDS team, who's also under the constructor of Honda this season. They've got Tito Rabat, the 3rd of the 5 Spaniards, or 3 out of the 5 Honda riders are Spaniards. There's a lot of Spaniards on the grid, always has been in MotoGP. But we've got Tito Rabat at that team, we've also got Jack Miller in that team. Matty, do you think that they can get anywhere near to the Repsol Honda this year, or do you just think that they'll just be there to sort of finish in the midfield, maybe?
Well, they've obviously got the advantage of using the current Honda, so they hopefully should be quite near the top. But I mean, we saw last season that all it takes is a little bit of, changeable conditions, and then you get, what happened in Holland, and you get Jack Miller somehow winning a race. So I think if you negate any race like that again, which I guess is unlikely, but, can still happen. They'll be looking to, get regular top 10s. Perhaps a podium would be a goal for the season. A win would be stretching it, I feel. Considering, I think Miller's probably going to be the top rider, and it's a bit difficult to guess because obviously you've got a lot of teams fighting for that midfield spot. So I'm gonna sit by my guns. I'm gonna say top 10 is gonna be where they're gonna be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, that's fair enough. In the Sepang test, actually, they were pretty low down, sort of in the 20s and that sort of area. But actually, in the Phillip Island test, Jack Miller got 9th, I think, on 2 of the 3 days. So that's fairly good going, isn't it, Benny?
Yeah, it is. And as a team, they've got the new bikes, and Miller can perform quite well on, especially in changeable conditions, but also in the dry sometimes. But as for Tito, I got to say that I've got a feel for him because ever since he moved to MotoGP, his life's just been miserable. A lot of injuries, and he's always been towards the back of the field. Just he hasn't found his way on the GP bikes yet. And I think his highest finish was 9th in Argentina. Quite a weird race, as it was quite a lot of retirement. He just hasn't shown what he did in Moto2 when he won the title, and even in the season after he won the title. He just hasn't been himself, but I think that with Miller they can expect some decent finishes, maybe top 10s, but with Tito, if he doesn't find his form, I think this might be his last season in the sport.
Interesting, very interesting point. So now finally on to the 3 other Ducati teams apart from the normal factory team. Now it's a bit of a weird system actually going on at these 3 Ducati teams. Why? Because Petrucci at the Pramac Ducati team has got a 17 bike, the same as the Ducati team. Redding's got a 16, the same as Barbara and Bautista at the Real and Aspar teams. But actually Baz and Abraham at the Aspar and Narama teams, or whatever they're called, have got the 15 bike. So Benny, a real peculiar system there, but we're looking at Pramac Ducati first. Petrucci's got the same machinery as Dovizioso and Lorenzo, so do you think that he might be able to get slightly close to them?
Well, Petrucci is quite a peculiar rider. He does, he can show very good, he can do very well, but he can also just have an off day and finish hardly in the points. But yeah, last season he did outscore Redding in the part of the season that mattered, because after Ducati announced that the Pramac team will be getting a factory-supported 17 bike, they basically had whoever's gonna score more points is gonna get the bike, and in that part of the season Petrucci did score more points. I don't think that he finished on the podium last season, but he did finish on the podium before, even challenging Rossi for the win that time that it was really, really wet in Silverstone. But Redding did score a podium last season in the changeable conditions in Assen, I think, where Miller won. So
That's
Petrucci,
a crazy race.
It was, yeah.
but Petrucci, I think, is gonna challenge. I think if he has a good day, he is gonna challenge the factory team. But on other occasions, he's going to be probably the best Ducati.
Yeah, we've got Scott Redding also at that team with the year-old motorbike, and that definitely is a real disadvantage for Redding. Do you think, Matty, that it might be a bit of a kick in the teeth for Redding, or do you think he'll just handle it and just go and not really care about it as such?
Well, considering he got a podium last season, you might be a little bit miffed that he hasn't gotten the 17 bike, but of course, it's points that matter, not podiums, so he'll just have to deal with it, whether he likes it or not. He just has to go out and do whatever he can against Petrucci. I mean, if there's probably a chance midway through the season, if Petrucci's not performing, they might swap the bikes, so you might see Redding in a 17 bike, but that's all dependent on results. So I guess that might be in the back of Redding's mind. It might drive him a little bit, but of course he is going into this fight with his teammate with one arm tied behind his back.
Yeah, fair enough. And the other two teams in Ducati, we've also got Barbara on the Espanara team, Real Espanara, on the 16 bike, the same as Reading. Loris Baz on the 15 bike. And then we've got Karel Abraham on the 15 bike for the Aspar team, and then Bautista on the 16th bike for the Aspar team. So looking really comparing the two Spaniards, Barbara and Bautista, in the different teams with the same motorcycle. Who will win that race, Benny? Bautista or Barbara?
Poof, that's quite a tough question. I think it might be Barbara, because last season he was still racing with a 2-year-old bike, and he was very, very competitive, even with that old bike, and he had shown a lot of promise. I think he even finished on the podium, and towards the latter end of the season, when he got a chance to race the factory Ducati, he, after Iannone got injured and didn't race in a few races, he showed decent pace for being on the bike for the first time. But this year, considering he's gonna have the testing under him and he's gonna be used to the bike, I think that he's gonna be able to challenge even the GP17 bikes. But Bautista, he has been, for the past few seasons, he's been riding the Aprilia, which really hasn't been a place to show off his abilities, so he is quite a talented rider. So I think that we're gonna see interesting results from him, considering, looking at the test timesheets, he did show on a few separate days quite good pace, so we might see quite a tight battle between these two.
Yeah, Bautista in the top 6 in all 3 days at Sepang. Very interesting battle that'll be. But let's focus on the guys on the 2-year-old bikes, Matty. Baz and Abraham, they're just really going to be at the back, aren't they? Just scrapping between themselves.
Yeah, they haven't got a hope in hell. I mean, talking about Redding going into the battle with one arm tied behind his back, these guys are going into battle with one arm, 2 legs, and the whole face blindfolded going into battle.
Good analogy.
I have no idea how these two aren't going to finish in the bottom half. I mean, they could, if they get like a good chance with weather, maybe another crazy race, they could get in the top 15, but their only real chance is massive, like, just races where there's loads of retirements, which can get them hopefully somewhere near the top 10. Obviously, as well, you had Abraham last year having a stint in World Superbikes, which didn't prove that successful. Well, I just don't feel like they're going to really achieve anything, either of them. And I know that sounds like a horrible thing to say, but you can't expect that much from a bike that's 2 years old.
It is a real kick in the teeth, because you know already before the season starts you've got the worst machinery and you've got to outdrive your machinery by quite a lot to catch up to anybody else. So really the last talking point is, I feel, what do you actually two think about Ducati's system here to put drivers on older bikes? Do you think it's a good system, or do you think it's a little bit humiliating, Matt? Do you think it's a little bit humiliating, especially for the two on the 2-year-old bikes? Or can you kind of understand it for reasons such as, you know, you can learn the bike and then go onto a better bike, you know, if you perform, if you like?
I don't think it's anything down to Ducati's system. I think it's just down to the funding. These teams obviously don't have the funding to even run 2 1-year-old bikes. I mean, Pramac are there with one brand new bike. That's fair enough. But the only reason you'd run a bike that was 2 years old is because you can't afford to run one that's either new or 1 year old. So, it makes it sound like a desperate situation, but I don't think it really is. I think it's just, you know, a team trying to balance the books a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real shame about financial. I think there's a lot of financial issues generally in motorsport. Now, we're not going to talk about such as who's going to win the title, but Benny, the last bit, we're going to have a bit of an interesting talking point here. Who's going to win the battle for last place in the Constructors? Is it going to be Aspar, or is it going to be Real Espanara? Because I think everyone else is going to be above them. Do you think it's going to be the one or the other? Because they've both got the same bikes.
I do think that it's in the end it's gonna be Real Espanara who's gonna be the worst Ducati, but I think that KTM are gonna have quite an even harder season than the older Ducati bikes, Because even at the when they raced last season, in the last race of the season at Valencia, they didn't show any pace. They were last, I think, even behind the GP14 bikes. And even in this testing, they haven't shown much better pace than that. So I think that even the GP15s are gonna be ahead of them. But hopefully they'll improve throughout the season, and that I'll be wrong.
Yeah, we've got one more test then before the MotoGP season starts, but that's not for a month yet, so unfortunately your MotoGP fans aren't going to really get anything for a month yet. But the season just started Qatar, I think it's the 26th of March, the same day as the Formula 1 season starts. We've got another test to go before then, and we'll be previewing some more of the season, saying maybe who can win the title and what's changed in that third test. But that's pretty much it for today. We've gone through every single team, and we've talked a little bit about the testing, but that's really it for today's video, unless anybody else has got anything else to say.
No.
Pretty much echoed all up.
Okay. Yep, alright then, okay, so that's it for the first video on the first podcast of the MotoGP 2017 season. If you guys want to see more of Matty's mistakes as an analyst on this show, and more of Benny's absolute brilliance and know-how of MotoGP, and me as host, well, you're in the right place. So make sure to subscribe to the Motocast channel.
And you'll meet Dan when he finally fixes his technical issues.
Yeah, hopefully Dan will be on as host next time, and I'll be taking a step back as analyst. So that'll be the end of March, but before then, we will see you at the next one. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to visit us on the go, if you want to view us on the go. But as Josh said in the last podcast, if you've got to this point, I'm pretty doubt that you won't be doing that. You can either listen to us on Mixcloud, or you can download the MP3 link in the description to listen on the go. So that's it for today's MotoGP podcast. I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next month for the Qatar test and full season preview.